Just gonna give everyone a little bit of time to join if they are joining into this video. So bear with me, we should start at about 7 o'clock, maybe just after. We'll give it one more minute or so, and then I'll get on with today's topic. Okay, I'm gonna get on with the topic today. I'm sure this video will be saved on for anyone to look on during the week or whenever they get a chance. So right, here we go. Hi everyone, happy Monday. Hope your Monday was pretty good and your week started off well. You may not have seen me before, but my name is Kyle and I've recently joined the On Your Game physiotherapy team. I'm a physiotherapist by background with a keen interest in all things sport, and have a varied physiotherapy background with my main interest being in sports injuries and rehabilitation. My passion that I work towards is to be able to get injured individuals back to their sport with minimal time off. I also strive to get these individuals back to performing at their previous level in the sport, pain-free, or performing better than they ever have before. So a little snapshot about me, that's enough about me. Let's dive into today's topic and what I'm going to talk to you about. So the fear of movement or movement avoidance. Some people may have heard of this, some people perhaps not. What is this fear of movement or movement avoidance that we commonly see in patients following an injury? This fear of pain due to movement is given the name kinesiophobia. I'm not too great at pronouncing that word, so I'm just going to call it the fear of movement for the purpose of this video. So the fear of movement is a widely researched topic in the rehabilitation world and has been found to be one of the leading contributors in the shift from a kind of short-term acute pain into a more long-term chronic pain that tends to stick with you for a little bit longer. And the longer it sticks with you, the harder and harder it is to kind of get out of that cycle and kind of kickstart the rehabilitation process. So the fear of movement typically follows a painful experience or an injury in this case that has occurred during a short period after the injury. The individual may be hesitant with certain movements due to fear of experiencing this pain again, or once recovered from the injury, they may be fearful of certain movements due to worrying about re-injuring the structure that they'd previously injured. Understandably, with a lot of injuries, as you probably would have been told by many therapists, is some movements do need to be avoided to allow the structure to rest, to heal and recover. However, this fear of movement that I'm going to be talking about refers to a more long-term time frame of reduced activity, even once the injury has healed from a structural point of view. So the fear of movement is a long-term psychological belief following an injury, which makes the individual believe that certain movements or activities may further damage the injured structure and put it at risk of re-injury. However, this is often opposite in most cases, as we now understand that in order to regain strength and the integrity of kind of the injured structure, it is required to be put under a certain amount of resistance and mechanical loading to allow it to heal from a physiological point of view and withstand these loads that may have previously caused the injury. As this negative psychological belief goes on, it may lead to avoidance behavior, which in the long run can cause prolonged periods of inactivity, muscle disuse, and even a lower level of mood in general. It's this kind of downward spiral that we see where individuals avoid certain movements or experiences due to the pain. Their overall activity levels start to reduce and their muscles become deconditioned, and the risk and likelihood of re-injury or sustaining another injury is in fact increased, and is now at this point more likely than it would have been if they had overcome this fear of movement in the early stages of their rehabilitation. So this psychological response or mechanism, some may call it, is common among injured individuals and most common in individuals with low back pain. A fear avoidance model has been created to help educate not only us as therapists and clinicians, but injured individuals too, allowing them to better understand what this fear of movement means and what it may look like, along with its possible detrimental effects. So this fear avoidance model that I will keep on referring to, I will post into the comment section of this video afterwards for you guys to refer to during this video. So this model was initially designed to identify and explain why chronic low back problems and associated disability that comes with alongside the pain develop in individuals suffering from an onset of low back pain. However, it can also be related to an injury that has occurred. As you can see on the example of the model, like you will see on the comment section, it indicates that a person suffering from pain will undergo one of two different pathways. Okay, so the model may show that when an individual has previously experienced some pain or an injury, say a sports injury or anything, they will either take the path of continuing their day-to-day activities and life without negative thoughts of the pain that may be provoked, therefore leading them to accept and commit to the process of recovery and rehabilitation. However, we do see this quite commonly among some patients where a cycle can be initiated if the pain is misinterpreted in a negative manner. So it has been recognized that these negative thoughts can lead onto pain-related fear and associated safety protective behaviors such as avoidance. However, this could cause the pain to become worse and enter what we call a chronic or long-term phase due to the reduced use of the injured structure and resulting reduction in activity. This in turn can then lower the threshold at which one person can experience pain. So something that may not have been thought to have been pain-provoking at all may now start to be, cause pain among the individual, and then they start laying off that activity and off those movements that are causing pain. So how do you overcome this fear of movement? Some people may be in it, some people may not realize that they've been in this kind of fear of movement, psychological kind of spiral. So how is it overcome? So firstly, what I would like to say is that it's important to listen to your own body, as nobody knows you better than yourself. Understanding that not all pain is bad pain, and that in order for structures to heal better and faster, they need to kind of in a controlled manner be put through some mechanical loading and regular use, which helps the quality and the speed of the healing process. Secondly, which I believe to be the most important, and I believe Nat has spoken about this in previous Facebook Lives, and I'm sure many of the other therapists have as well, is that you want to have a gradual return back to activity and kind of not going from the 0 to 100 all of a sudden. Naturally, following an injury, the injured structure is slightly more weak than it would have been prior to the injury. And therefore it may not be able to perform in the way it used to so soon after the injury. Therefore, this can highlight the importance of a gradual return back to activity, starting a few steps back in your gym program or your fitness or even just the sport you play, just taking it a little bit easy and building up from then. But it can take a little bit of time and a bit of commitment, and it's obviously understood, many of us going to the gym, when we go to the gym and we're not feeling 100% or we've got a little niggle here and there, you tend to take it back a couple of steps and maybe lifting a much lighter weight than you are currently. So it can be fairly frustrating, but in the long run, your body will thank you and will be able to perform better than you were performing at pre-injury, as well as having a reduction in the likelihood of re-injuring the structure. The third, and probably one of the last way I would say, probably actually not the last, but another way to overcome it, I believe, is this fear of movement is performing activities that you enjoy. Keeping active is a great way to keep healthy, both physically and mentally. And if you're enjoying your exercise, you are immediately more likely to continue doing it. So I'm going to give it a bit of an example of what this fear avoidance may look like. Just a hypothetical patient. So we've got a 35-year-old patient who used to be fairly active during his previous years. He found himself gaining weight due to his inability to exercise as he experiences pain in his lower back. So this period of inactivity started following an episode of low back pain that he noticed when going to the gym roughly 12 months ago. Upon questioning during the initial assessment, the individual said that he had not felt any pain for quite some time, but was scared to return to the gym as this is what provoked his pain initially. So immediately as a therapist, I'm sitting there going, okay, we noticed this is a kind of prime example of movement avoidance due to this belief that his pain will be provoked through movement and exercise. Whilst it seems very easy for us to sit back and say, why don't you go and give the gym a go and see if your pain is provoked or not? This developed this psychological avoidance, this belief, has become so surreal that overcoming it and actually enjoying the exercise is the challenge, and that's the challenge alone that we need to overcome initially to progress through onto the rehabilitation program. So from a physiotherapy point of view, just overcoming this avoidance is the first step, and encouraging the patient to regain their confidence moving and having an active lifestyle through means of very much education based to overcome this fear and this movement avoidance. So we aim to gain all our clients' trust through professional support and ongoing support throughout the rehabilitation journey. So going back to the patient, so the patient was asked if they had any previous activities or hobby that they enjoyed prior to the injury occurring. The patient would highlight that they used to enjoy playing five-a-side football on a weekly basis with his mates. And this was something that he loved to do and would love to work towards being able to do again, but at the moment he said he doesn't see himself returning back to it. So we'll take the information and we'll say, right, where possible, we will look to tailor that rehabilitation program to suit the individual really. We really tailor around them so you can work towards their goals and work towards performing similar movements that they were once used to performing. At the end of the day, improving the individual's confidence with movement will allow an increase in activity day to day, and therefore with the previously injured part of the body will benefit from a frequent movement and muscle activation, which will lead to a speedier recovery. Okay, so this topic has been quite a whistle-stop tour around it. There's still massive ongoing research and coping modalities and way to overcome this. But speaking kind of from a personal point of view, what I've highlighted there are ways to overcome it is stuff you can really think about, and just give yourself 20 to 30 minutes to think about how you can, first of all, identify if you're in this kind of downward spiral. And sometimes you may not even realize you are until you take a step back and look at what you're previously doing before the pain and look at what you're doing now. Yeah, so that's what I can talk to you about that topic. So just to summarize a little bit about this kind of whistle-stop tour of this topic, how to overcome it, and if you felt yourself falling into this trap and downward spiral. So we'll go back to the 3 points I mentioned earlier. Okay, so take it back a few steps, start with the basics, and progress gradually as you start to improve your strength. Little and often is always better than all at once. Ways of recording your activity levels during the day in a little notepad, keeping up to tabs with how much you did that day, how you're feeling the next day, and vice versa. It will really help you kind of see what your limits are at the moment, and say a week or two down the line, you can always look back and be like, wow, I was only doing 5 squats last week, and now I'm doing 30 squats pain-free, and I'm feeling much better than I ever was. So, like I said, the first thing is noticing it, and the second thing is finding ways to overcome it, and kind of just start your rehab and get your confidence back with moving how you were moving before and how your body was used to moving. Number 2 is do the activities that you find enjoyable. Obviously now with the cold, with COVID just happening, people are trying to get back into the gym, back into their sports and active lifestyles. Give something a go that you really enjoy. If you think you don't really enjoy anything, give something completely random a go and see how that goes for you. Okay. Third and final, listen to your body, as you understand your body better than anybody else. Okay. I'll leave you with that kind of stern comment. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, feel free to comment on the video or private message on this Facebook page. It's been great sharing my first topic with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed and were able to take something from it. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great week.